Hello, my name is Marcus Chapman, a property manager for Greater Boise Property Management. We are one of the most respected property management companies in the Greater Boise area, and we manage single, duplex, and quadruplex homes from East Boise to Caldwell. Today, I'd like to talk about evictions. The biggest and most important part of the process is making the decision to do so. Now that might sound a little simple and obvious, but it's the most tricky part. By the time you've gotten to the point where you're considering eviction, you've undoubtedly made several attempts to negotiate with the tenant and made several agreements which, for whatever reason, have not been honored. This can, in itself, be extremely frustrating. Also, another thing to consider is that in the very near future, the tenant could resolve the breach in the lease agreement. Regardless, it is crucial to document every part of this process, every communication once the tenant has failed to meet their requirements of their lease. This may be required as evidence to show the progression of events in court, if needed. It is essential that you be able to demonstrate in court that your decision to evict is based in reason and is in no way emotional. I've seen many landlords lose their composure in court, becoming very emotional, which has never helped their case. So assuming you have all the documentation to show the breach of the lease agreement, and documentation to show your communication in trying to work with the tenant to resolve the breach agreement, the next step is to file with the appropriate county courthouse. You'll find that the basic procedures to file eviction are the same in both counties. If you want the eviction process in weeks as opposed to months, you must follow the expedited eviction process. The expedited eviction process is based on rents owed, not fees, fines, or other expenses incurred such as damages, etc. You will then be able to get a court date quickly, assuming the tenant is found and the summons is served to them. So as soon as the decision has been made to evict, start the paper trail. Go through all your records, find all your research, and make a note of all the communications that has transpired. Step 1 is to file the paperwork with the appropriate clerk in the appropriate courthouse. The first thing to file with her is the 3-day notice that you served. The second thing to file is the actual eviction complaint listing all the rents owed and for how long, etc. And the third thing is to have somebody deliver the summons to the tenant. My preference is to use the local sheriff. I always like to have a sheriff show up at a tenant's house to let them know that we're serious and we're taking things to the next level. Once the tenant has been served, you will both be independently notified of the court date. In my experience, if there's no question as to the validity of your claim as far as the eviction, the tenant will most likely not show up. This means that you do win by default, and the tenant will be notified as to when they need to have vacated the property. The sheriff will then complete an occupancy check of the property on that date and will inform you of its status as to whether the tenants are still there or they have left. This all assumes the tenant did not show up on their court date. If the tenant does show up on the court date, be prepared to show all your documentation and to present your case very clearly. You will most likely be put into mediation with the tenant, which, given the situation and your research, you will not find fruitful at all. And then you have to go back to the judge and present the findings of the mediation to the judge with the tenant and the mediator, and the judge will then review the case and make a decision at that time. One of the things the judge will bring up to you is whether or not staying is any kind of an option. If they can get their tenant to agree to pay past rent or whatever fines or damages are addressed in court, the judge may apply some kind of pressure to get you to accept the tenant and keep moving forward on some kind of a payment plan. If you have all your documentation in order and the court agrees that the tenant is in breach of the lease agreement and that no remedy can be found, your eviction will most likely be granted. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at Greater Boise Property Management.